Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Convos with Sazón with yours truly. With me today is Ace King, videographer, creative producer, and social consultant. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for joining me. I know it's been in the works for some time now, so I'm very happy that I got to catch you in New York. To kick us off, I want to talk about you as a person and your early beginnings. So let's talk about what it was like growing up, what you wanted to be when you grew up, and how that compares to what you're doing now.
Wow. Growing up was interesting. I am triracial, obviously. Fun fact. So my dad is black, and then my mom is Colombian, and like Irish Italian like mix.
What a mix.
So fun. And I grew up raised on my dad's side, super religious, Jehovah's Witness, but I was like the problem child. So like I literally was always like, I remember actually as a child like coming to New York to visit like the Jehovah's Witness headquarters. There were like home videos of me like getting in trouble because they were like I just remember vividly this one video of me where like you hear my grandmother in the background like, do not jump down those stairs, and you just see me and I'm like, and then I'm like jumping down these stairs full force. So I was always just very energetic and like causing a ruckus. I'm a Leo. I can't help it.
I'm a Leo too. When's your birthday? We love.
Sisters. August 22nd. So I'm the
Okay.
last day. I was
July
supposed to be a
27th.
Virgo, but I came early because I was like, hey girls, it's like I'm gonna cut the line and I'm gonna be the leader for a second. So I was just always like really energetic. In high school, I got like super into musical theater, and like I was also in that like age or like day and age of like Ryan Murphy was like making Glee at that time. So I was like, I am like living my Glee life, you know? And I also was super into cooking, which actually I did bring cookies for you today. They're in my bag out
You're
there.
so sweet. Thank you so much.
Of course. And yeah, those are like I would say like my passions as younger me. Like I loved to cook, I loved music, and big like movie and like book reader, especially in high school. Like I was always like, I remember my grandmother was always like, you need to not watch all this TV. Like it is, of the world, because Jehovah's Witnesses don't want you to be worldly. And she's like, that, like, what is the TV gonna do for you? And I'm like, babe, it's built my career now. I'm like, if I didn't watch so much TV, I'd never have these ideas.
I know you mentioned that you were raised mostly from your dad's side.
Mm-hmm.
Out of personal curiosity,
Yeah.
how much of an influence, if at all, did you have from the Colombian side of your family? Were you exposed to it at all?
Not until later in life. So I was raised, oh my God, this is gonna be such a deep episode. Sorry, everybody. Because I was raised Jehovah's Witness, my grandmother was like super adamant about keeping me separated from my mom. And she had custody of me because my parents had me so young. So I didn't know like about my Colombian heritage until I was like fully 18 and like out of like able to like go live my life. I always say like it's almost like I had like a grand like reset or like new lease on life, but it was really easy to like move into having a normal life, so to say, in a way, or at least feel a sense of normalcy, because my mom was never a Jehovah's Witness, so she was just like and super accepting of like me as a person. So I never felt like awkward kind of transitioning into that. And then I started to learn more about like our Colombian heritage, but also, we were in the South, and of like my mom and her two siblings, which are my two uncles, like she's the only one where like the other two you can see they're like, y'all are mixed with something, but my mom is like the only one who's fair skinned, like blue green eyes and like blonde brown hair. So like she's the only one who's like extremely passing. Yeah. So for a long time I was like, oh, I'm half white and half black. and then when I like was living with my mom and my grandmother, and then like got to be around my great grandmother who like spoke no English, I was like, oh, that's why we cook so well. And like things are a little different around here. And I learned that they stopped speaking Spanish at my mom's generation because of us like living in the South and wanting to really like have them like kind of like assimilate and not like rock the boat too much. And also because when my mom and her two brothers did know a little bit of Spanish, they were going back and forth and like they were basically like spilling all the cheese in the family. And they were like, we got to stop teaching these kids what we're saying because like they're telling too many family secrets to other people in the family. So literally like my mom is like, yeah, your downfall is that I didn't learn Spanish because your grandmother did not want me like talking shit. And I was like, dang. I was like, that's kind of crazy, guys. Like, we really dropped the ball here.
Is Spanish something that you've taken on later in life?
Okay, I had a really good Duolingo streak for like 2 years. And then, when was it? It was like, I think it was earlier this year. I took a trip to like Vietnam or something. And like between the jet lag and everything, I was just like, I give up. I was like, I'm done with the streak. But I know enough to like get by. I don't know if I can talk about weed on this podcast, but
You can
like
talk about anything you'd like.
fantastic. Okay. I like to say that I'm high lingual. So like I feel a lot less intimidated when I'm high to speak Spanish. And I like at least try harder then. But otherwise I'm like I'm not really that good, guys. I'm like, I know words, but I don't know
with
like
language specialists, they say that our biggest blocker is ourselves because we get so in our heads of, am I saying this right? Are they understanding what I'm saying? So that makes sense when the inhibitions are kind of out of the way and the blockers are out of the way.
Natasha Bedingfield, release your inhibitions.
So circling back to the beginning, right, of your existence, your career path, your kind of place in the world, right? Could you pinpoint maybe someone or something that inspired your creative instinct?
My grandmother on my mom's side.
Yeah.
My grandmother on my mom's side, her and I literally are like reflections of each other. She was also a Leo. And we both loved to read and we both loved movies. So we always used to go to the movies together. And then when I moved away, I moved to LA when I was 19. So I really only had like a year and a half that I actually got to like spend like with my mom and my grandmother like in close proximity. And then I left and I was like, they were like, yes, go pursue, like live in LA. You're young, like try. And I got really into Instagram. And I wasn't like making content then like super heavy, but especially in like the last like 5-6 years especially, like when my grandmother passed, I was like, I want a way to be able to show my mom what I'm doing every day or what I'm doing in a week or whatever. So I got really into creating short form, mostly from the sense of like, I'm going to post this because like my mom, her literal bio on her Instagram is like, I'm here to stalk my child. Aww. So a lot of the inspiration came from just being able to have something to share so my mom could see what I was doing. And then it also came from like my love of movies. I always say when someone's like, what's a movie that like, or like something that inspires you? I always say Charlie's Angels. And specifically it's the end credit scene in Charlie's Angels because they play Blink 182, All the Small Things. And it's nothing but like blooper like credits and just like funny moments from the whole movie. And that for me, I'm like, that is what creativity is all about. It's about the process and it's about the fun that you have in it, not just the end result, which is, this amazing movie that we sat and we've watched for an hour and a half. But the people behind it, like you get to see their personality, you get to see that not everything is the perfect shot all the time, or that like it doesn't have to be this like extremely rigid, like serious like space.
It can be whatever you want it to be.
Exactly. So that's what inspires me is like, and women specifically, like I was raised in a house on my dad's side. I was raised by my grandmother and my two aunts. And then when I was, finally self-actualized and able to be free, I was in a home with my grandmother and my mom. So I've always been surrounded by like amazing, powerful, intelligent and women with like such tenacity and heart. So that's another thing I always say. I'm like, I'm for the girls.
I love it. You've made it extremely clear that creativity in all of its form, right? As a consumer of television, as a consumer of movies, as a theater kid as well, has been present throughout your entire life. So what would you say when you got to LA? What was the dream? Like, what was the vision? You had the support from your family, right? Who they were like, go off, you're young. When you got there, you're like, okay, Now what?
Oh my God, I had no clue. To be honest, I moved there with a job. I used to work for a fragrance distribution company,
Okay.
and they had opened a boutique inside of Neiman Marcus, and I was moved there to make that successful. I literally, my boss was like, "You have to sell $1 million in retail by the end of the year, and you're moving in April, so you have 8 months." And I was like, "Cool, we did it in 6." And I really had no like. Um, I had no understanding at the point in time because I had people that I worked with that did their own artistic things on the side, but I hadn't like found my thing yet. I knew I wanted to dance because of doing musicals in high school, and then one of my I always kept 2 jobs was a thing. So my second job in New Orleans when I was working for the fragrance distribution company was I was an entertainer in the NBA. So we used to like basically help like get the people who were doing like the on-court games. We were throwing t-shirts into the crowd. We're getting people up to dance, cheer, all the things.
I
So
love that.
and like we had this amazing like halftime show that we did my first season, and we got to do it again for the actual All-Star game, which was in our city that year. And it was like a dance through the decades, and we had like a section where like my group, we danced with like the female dance team, and we did like a swing section, and then like we ended with like all the groups because we had multiple entertainment teams, and we ended with all the groups coming together and dancing to Applause by Lady Gaga.
I
It was
love it.
so cute. So I was like, I really would love to learn how to like dance because I watched all the YouTube videos at that time of like Millennium and everything, and I was like, I'm gonna try and go to a dance class. And like the first place that I lived for the first year was actually in a kind of like a hostel for dancers and creatives. So I was around dancers, but I was always working too. So after like a year, not even a full year, I remember my boss also coming into town, and she was always super encouraging of me. And she was like, you've done a great job for me, but I want to know that like while you're out here, you're trying to do something for yourself. She's like, so next time I see you, like you better have taken a dance class or something here. So I started dancing. And then I realized that dancers don't get paid well. And that's when I got super into, my world of understanding like product marketing and everything from a distribution level. I started to look at social media marketing. And one of the choreographers who I was training with, Dana Alexa, we're still cool to this day. I adore her. She won the influencer season, or I don't want to say it was an influencer season, but it was a lot of influential people from like YouTube and all the things of The Amazing Race. And I saw her, what she was doing when creating content and still teaching dance classes, but also she was working on making like dance visuals and like marketing them with brands. So I was like, I want to figure out how to do that. And then as I started to play in that space more, that's when I started to understand, it's like, oh, it's like there's so much more that you can do than just dancing and creating content. Like there's all these, infinite possibilities and lanes. So a lot of it stemmed from my creativity and like love of like dance and music. And then it like moved more into that. But I originally moved to LA with a job. I was like, I got a job, it's salary, and I know I got this check coming every 2 weeks. So
Yes.
I'm going to be focused on that. But
Yeah.
luckily, other people pushed me and like nurtured that like love of movement and everything out of me.
Was there a moment where you can be like, this could be the path that I eventually go down? So you started talking about, the intersection of creativity and product marketing and how social media can go just beyond a get ready with me or like showcasing your dance moves. So talk about that in terms of like when it all clicked and you're like, I kind of see the road ahead, or like a journey maybe that I didn't plan on taking, but calls to me right now.
My biggest thing is reading. I love to read. And in 2021, I had already like, in 2017 is when I started like really focusing on being like, I'm going to be consistent in making content to grow my platform to hit 10K, which was like actually my hardest year, one of my hardest years in LA, like ever. Like that was the year my great grandmother passed. That was the year like the engine in my car like blew out randomly, like a night or two before like a show I was like choreographing like to be in. I had like a friendship like fallout, like breakup. I had a romantic breakup, and I had like a job like shakeup situation. So it was just, and all those things were like, I want to say like 5 months consecutively. Like every month it was like it was testing me.
You were quite literally being pushed towards change.
Yeah. So that was an interesting time. But I had already started to see like a little bit of like, I was like, at least if I try and I put something out there, I'm seeing something come back, even if it's little. But then I started to slowly understand the space of how the social media apps and things work on the back end, not just me putting content into it and like finding opportunities. But 2021 is when it really all started to click, or at least I got enough courage to just jump off the cliff, I like to say. I took a solo trip to Dubai, and I read the book by Jen Sincero, You're a Badass at Making Money. And I didn't even finish the book on the trip, but like literally maybe halfway to like 75% through it, I was like, I'm quitting my job before the plane lands back in LA. I can't do this anymore. And I had no savings. I had no plan, but I also had experienced the pandemic where like, you know, my other job overnight was gone and I didn't know what to do, but also everyone else was in that situation. So it made me a lot less afraid. And I became less dependent on what I had known all my life of 10 years of always having two jobs. Like from the moment I had my first job at like my first hard, like legitimate paying hourly job at Hollister. I also had a job at laser tag, like while I was in high school. And then from that to I had three jobs. Like, so I was always like, I knew I had checks coming in, but I would always hit like a point where I just wasn't feeling fulfilled anymore. Like I'm fulfilled by, you know, setting a goal, reaching it, you know, all those things. As a Leo, we love to be cheered for accomplishments. But then I was like, I'm doing it for someone else, and I'm putting that money in their pocket, and I'm seeing a fraction of it when I know how much money I'm making them. And taking that trip and reading that book really pushed me to realize I could have more say in not only like how I'm spending my time, but how much my time is worth. And am I actually getting to see the world and meet so many amazing people, or am I going to, you know, stand behind someone's counter or whatever else and clock hours for them to make them rich to enjoy the spoils of life, so to say. And that is what like really made it click for me to be like, you'll never see anything different. You'll never know what the possibilities are if you don't try. This job will be here tomorrow. This job will be here next year. So if you, God forbid, ever feel like you need to go back, like you can. It's not happening.
Yeah,
though.
knock on wood. No,
That's
no,
not
no.
happening though. I have thought about recently though, just applying to a bunch of like regular like or just like random like side day jobs and stuff, and then just like taking them, and then like the moment I book something, I'm like, okay, I gotta go. And like and having no remorse, because like I was always the person who was like, I never took a sick day. Like someone, like I was the person people always
You were
called
the ideal corporate employee
Oh
from
my,
the sounds of
oh
it.
my God. I was a dream employee. I was always like top of sales, you know, like someone's sick, call him. Like someone needs to go home early, I'll stay late. Like I was snatching hours, okay? And overtime, hated to see me coming, okay?
Yeah.
But yeah, then I freed myself.
So, okay. You kind of set that goal of I'm quitting my job before this flight is back in LA. How did you know where to start? Because taking the leap is the hardest part. Like once you've taken the leap, you're kind of like, all right, now I have all this time. Now I have this freedom, but with freedom also comes a lot of uncertainty, right?
I didn't necessarily have like a fully fleshed out idea, but I had started to make like a lot of friends. I was working in like my last job was I was working in cannabis, and I had started to make a lot of friends with different like cannabis brand founders and stuff, and all of them were like, oh my God, like you make content really well, really fast, like, and you get it. Like, can we hire you? And I was like, sure. And I was just like, I just reached out to, or just started corresponding with all those brands and was like, hey, like, you know, I'm doing retainers starting at like X amount of dollars. I was way undercharging. Like I literally would never charge that now. Good luck. And I'm just always been really social is the
Yeah.
thing. Like, I mean, I have my points where, God forbid, I'm like, I do not want to talk to people sometimes, but I've always just been really like, I guess Southern in that sense, and like the Leo in me is like, let's make a friend today, you know. So I walk into a room or a space, and then when I was making the videos, I would always be like, oh, come be in my video or whatever. And they'd be like, oh, no. And I'm like, no. Trust me. You want to be in this video. And then I show them and I'd make it fun and engaging. And, you know, we'd pick up conversation and I just always would connect with people from there. So a lot of it just happened word of mouth. Like I like to joke that I'm Hollywood's best kept secret or probably worst kept secret at this point.
You mentioned earlier when you were talking about kind of like the beginning of your career that you had people who believed in you and who pushed you in the direction of your dreams, for lack of better wording. Talk about that importance of having mentors and having guides, but also taking it upon yourself to look for the information that you ended up, implementing.
Yeah, I mean, I think having a tribe of people around you is extremely important. I have been very fortunate to encounter people who have seen something in me and have either nurtured it or just given me really great advice or even, giving me great feedback, which is amazing. And nothing is coincidental. It all really does like happen, like even how we met. It all happens how it's supposed to, but I would say don't be afraid to ask. Like if anybody's like looking for like the advice on that, like don't be afraid to ask someone like to be your mentor, or if they don't have that capacity, just to be like, hey, like I would love to chat and just get your perspective on like what I'm doing, how I could improve that. Some of the things you think like I am very skilled at and I should lean into more, or maybe I should try something different, or if you have anyone in your network that you think would be great for me to connect with, I think that is great. And really focus on having like a good support group of people around you. Like the number one person I think of is my best friend Janice. Like she was one of my first, like, I have a couple other friends like I've met and like are real friends and family to me, like through like my work that I have. But Janice was like my first friend I met in dance class and has seen me through everything. I could cry right now. And like she has literally been there and like believes in me from like whatever I want to do. When I made my first dance concept video, Janice was in it. Janice was in almost everything I've ever made in terms of like dance projects. When I was making those visuals, when I was choreographing live shows, we just had an apartment together in London over the summer. Like she is literally like my sister, my muse, all the things. And it's important to have someone like that. And I have other people in my life too, like my amazing roommate Nia, who, I met, I would say like halfway into my time in LA, and like we've been able to grow together and like are also like siblings. So finding, your chosen family is extremely important, especially as a creative, because it gets really, difficult sometimes. The most creative people that you see putting things out into the world, that is the number one thing I've learned, is that they are on their own personal hero's journey all the time. And it can be incredibly lonely and difficult because we're building these things in silos. But when we come together and we see that in each other, it's a nice reminder that we actually aren't as alone as we think we are. But sometimes it's hard to ask for help, no matter what that help
and
is.
I think we can all relate to that. Let's talk about challenges. As you were talking about making the transition into going off on your own, you were talking about, it was hard or annoying or whatever the word you'd like to use to know that you were making money for somebody else, despite knowing the value of your time and all of those things. So that was a challenge back then. Now that you're doing your own thing and you have a lot more control, what are the challenges that people don't talk about? Is it, for example, continuing to evolve your craft, or creative differences when you have a vision
Oh,
and trying to find how that intersects with the client that you're working with? Talk about all of that.
you witchy girl. Like, how do you know? Yeah, okay. Here I'll I'm like, I want to go from like the top down.
Yeah,
The
sure.
first one is like, well, now I have no feelings or qualms about money. I'm like, this is my day rate. And I'm like, if you can meet me there, amazing. Like, and if I really like you or I really want to work with you or whatever, like I'm willing to like meet you in the middle if it makes sense.
Right.
But it has to make sense is the big thing. And then, from there, it's really forming relationships. I had a friend recently ask, do you focus on the opportunity or the money? And I'm like, honestly, I was like, I focus on the opportunity first because the opportunity is an opportunity to build a relationship versus like if it's always about the money, I was like, sometimes like I have clients who I've now worked with for 4 years of me like doing this that are like, we don't have the budget like fully of like what your day rate is or whatever, but like, we can kick you back on this and like we know we can book you for something down the road. And I'm like, cool, what time you need me there? And I'm still gonna treat it like it's my day rate job or it's a, however many like figures job. So that's one thing I would say. But the other challenge definitely is like really selling yourself, so to say, because like you are the product, like at least for me, like it's, and not the product in terms of like I am a traditional influencer and I'm like selling my numbers or whatever else, like in terms of like my engagement, but I'm selling like the creative of it all. And it's challenging because like I come from a space of like I didn't go to school for this. Like I didn't go to school at all. Fun fact. Like really happy to not have any student loan debt. Sorry, girls. But like so I am sometimes feeling like I'm always like personally operating at like a little bit of a deficit on like one end, but on the other end I'm like I make up for it in terms of experience, connection, and like I can guarantee you, like, even if you went to LA film school or whatever else, I don't know any like film school, sorry guys, or like content. If you went to Rogers Content like 101, like elite Ivies, like I can tell you right now, like Kelly Rowland didn't call you to film her. She called me, like, like no shade. And what caught that attention is, me being myself and really understanding that like I have to just be able to push that. So I would say that is the challenge, is really holding, yourself like to that high value that you are, and understanding like how to move through the rooms and like talk and be able to get the point across without it being performative or it being superficial or anything else. Like I always say, my girl who did my hair, right before this,
You
like
did a wonderful job.
she's amazing. Yes. Kay Slate, Born Beautician on Instagram. We love Kay. How we met was so cool, and like she's amazing. She does hair for like so many of like the Bravo TV shows and like all kinds of things, but like we just always chopping it up whenever I come to get my hair done and we're catching up, and she's like, it's amazing like everything you're doing. And what I'm working on tonight is like I'm shooting an event for Time, and she was like, thank you. She was like, oh, you could like, you should email the editors and etc. And I was like, oh, it was like, I don't really get a lot of like luck cold emailing. I was like, my thing is I'm like, I'm good in the room. I'm like, I just need one opportunity to be face to face. Like then like, and me to shoot something, you can give me 5 minutes. And I'm like, I always tell people, I'm like, you can give me 5 minutes in a room and I can outshoot your entire team on an iPhone. I can guarantee you that. And it'll be edited and it'll look real cute. And that is like my selling point. And also like people, like I love when people tell me that we just enjoy having you around. Like the content is always great, but you are a pleasure to work with. So I would say the challenge too is to understand that so many people ask me, which I always find so surprising, because I'm like, I think I'm constantly on my own hero's journey of like, I always want to do more, like bigger, better. Like I'm still reaching for Beyonce.
It'll happen. We're manifesting over here.
It's gonna happen. I mean, I've already shot Kelly, so I'm like, we're right there, reaching for Beyonce. She's in the distance. I'm coming, girl. I'm excited for you to meet me. But I would say, in the midst of all that, being grateful, and when people ask me like, how do I do this or how do I get there, and I'm like, just be a cool person to work with. Honestly, like, be good at what you do. But also, nobody wants to work with someone who sucks. Like, you could be good or great at what you do, but like, if your personality sucks, like, I don't know how to fix that. I'm sorry. Like, I could give you all the books I've read, but it didn't come from that. It really came from, I guess, being a child of the sun. But yeah, I would say that's the advice. But do a lot of reading too. Like, that's the base of my pyramid. The top is like, don't be afraid to talk about the money and like hold yourself to like the value. The middle point meets at like, you can compromise a little bit if it's like something you truly feel in your gut, like, is like where you want to be met at, and just understand how to continue to present yourself and be a good person to work with and moving through the space, and form real genuine connections and community. That's the other thing. Like, you're going to get really annoyed with me going forward because I'm gonna be like, hey girl, I'm in town. I don't know what you're doing in the next 24 hours, but like, do you have time for like a hang?
100% yes. If I'm in town, it'll be a yes.
I do it all the time, literally. I hit up one of my girls today. I was like, hey girls, I'm gonna be at a coffee shop in Brooklyn for like 2 hours. You want to come by? And so like, that's the middle ground, is like building that community, understanding how to talk and move, and like just not be performative, be real. And then the base of all that is like, continue to grow. Like, continue to, like, my thing is I'm reading. I'm always reading. I'm reading 2 books at a time all the time. I gotten a little bit slower in the last couple months, but I'm really buckling down. But I'm always reading a self-help book and like some type of like fun fantasy, whatever, like vibe. But I'm always going back and forth between the 2 of those, and I'm never losing my like spark of wonder and joy in the creative process. So I would say like, always be working on yourself in some degree, whether that's like taking a dance class, which I love, or like painting, or whatever it is like you enjoy. Like, find the little joys in that, and like find ways to improve for yourself, and like, you'll see that come through within your craft as well, is what I believe.
Let's talk about the work itself. On the first hand, your process, your creative process when approaching a different project, and then also the projects that you've done that you're most proud of, because you truly have done so much that I don't think we'll be able to do it justice, but I do want people to hear directly from you in terms of all of that.
Oh my God, I literally was posting some of my stories today because I actually have a project I'm working on in 2 weeks that I'm really excited about, that I am like creative directing and shooting a series of ads for the coffee shop I went to this morning, in collaboration with Meta and Square. And I'm super excited about that. And it's very different because like, a lot of times I'm mostly focused on like social BTS and like event recaps. And for that process, I always think through like, what's the flow of the event? Who are like the key players that we're going to have? If I do have talent that I'm interacting with, how long do I have with them? And what's the environment like? So those are all the things that come into play before I start to like cook, essentially. And with the transition videos, like, I'll kind of have like a general idea. Like, I'm working on some social right now for a reality show series. And like, for that, like, I have like, like 5 key tricks like in my mind, like in the bag, that I'm like, we're gonna do a revolver shot with all the girls, which is a continuous circling shot, but every time like it meets the halfway point, it changes into the next girl. Like, so that's like something I'm like, okay, that's super simple, it's easy, I know what type of shot I need to get with every girl. And then like, I'll have one that's a little bit more bespoke, and I'm like, it's gonna be based on what's around in the room or the set, and like, that's gonna be something I have to come up with like off the top of my head. And like, those are things that I'm like, I can't teach anybody, like, because it comes from me. And it's not like it's always funny when I talk to like clients about stuff like that, where I'm like, oh, it's like a standardized like day of just like me being on set to capture. I remember one of my projects I did with Bose, they asked me for a shot list, and I was like, I don't do shot lists or something like this. And they're like,
what do you mean?
and I was like, I was like, you can tell me like what we're doing for the day. I was like, and I'm going to move based off of that. I was like, but I can't make a shot list because like what I'm doing is secondary to the production, and nothing that I'm doing is necessarily going to be like stopped or like restarted for me to capture. I have to be there ready to capture as it happens and unfolds. And then lo and behold, like the entire day for that shoot actually ended up getting flipped on its head because the first shot of the day used this light that basically emulated to make it look like the sun was shining into the room from the outside. That light broke at the top of the day. So then the whole day got changed. And I was like, and if I would have made a shot list, guess what would have happened? That would have went out the window. So I was right. But for something like what I'm working on right now for this like ads project, I do have a shot list. Where I have like I've worked up like you know, a full like scripted like second by second, like this